Picking up the events from the previous episode, My Happy Marriage Season 2 Episode 7 begins with a serene scene, featuring Mayo Samori and Kyoka Kudo watching the snow falling outside the mansion on New Year's Eve. Kyoka acknowledges how happy the year has been since he met Mayo. The girl feels the same and they share a kiss on the lips. Elsewhere, Prince Takahito summons Masashi Uketo and the Lord Keeper, Takakura. Takahito instructs Masashi to forge ahead with their plans and keep the Emperor's disappearance under wraps for the time being. He also senses a terrible calamity approaching. This moment, Takakura asks Prince Takahito what he has seen in his latest vision. While Uketo snaps at Takakura, Takahito says it's Fing. He realizes that Takakura must have seen through his current ambivalent mindset. Takakura speculates that Takahito's heart must have been unsettled due to the sacrifice they might have to make in the future. Takahito doesn't say anything to Takakura's response but only smiles. Following the opening scene, My Happy Marriage Season 2 Episode 7 switches Kyoka Kudo and Mayo Samori on their way to visit the Hatsumode on New Year's Day. While Kyoka stays rather quiet, Mio's mind races once she recalls the last night's kiss. A flurry of emotions grasps Mio's mind as she wonders whether she's indecent to be thinking too much about the kiss. At the same time, she wonders if such experiences are normal for Kyoka. Eventually, she brushes off her thoughts and asks Kyoka whether it's safe for them to spend their time freely. Kyoka says they can since Prince Takahito has assured them that nothing will happen. The visit to Hatsumode fills Mayo with a tremendous sense of joy since she has never experienced such visits before. During an exchange with Kyoka, Mayo reveals how she used to spend her New Year's Day with the servants. In other words, she never stepped outside the mansion when she lived with the Samoris. My Happy Marriage Season 2 Episode 7 then shows the duo visiting the shrine. Mayo prays to God that she wants to be with Kyoka forever. Yet, at the same time, she's scared. While returning from the shrine, Kyoka asks Mayo what she was so fervently wishing for. Every year, Kyoka prays for the imperial capital's peace. This year, Kyoka has added another wish. He wants to be with Mayo forever. Kyoka's words overwhelm Mio's heart. After leaving the shrine, Mayo and Kyoka explore the bustling streets. Suddenly, they notice a commotion. A few members of the Gifted Communion perform in the crowd, showcasing a grotesquerie that's visible to everyone, including Mayo. Kyoka Kudo suspects the Order must have created a technique to make this possible. The Gifted Communion's members claim that unlike the government, who conceal the grotesquerie's existence, they have the power to eradicate them using gifts. In fact, they are willing to share their powers with everyone. My Happy Marriage Season 2 Episode 7 then shows the cult members demonstrating their powers to kill the grotesquerie. As the crowd stands perplexed by the sight, Yoshido Godo and his unit appear at the scene. They apprehend the cult members and take them away. My Happy Marriage Season 2 Episode 7 then reveals how Kyoka sent a message to Yoshido to inform the team about the commotion. Kyoka suspects that demonstrations like the one they witnessed are happening everywhere. He fears the outcome if the Gifted Communion continues to expand its influence over the normal folk. Kyoka then gives Mayo a shikigami for self-defense. That night, Uketo urgently summons Kyoka to the headquarters and asks whether he has heard about Takahito's plans. Masashi Uketo thinks it's inevitable that the Gifted Communion will come for Takahito and Mayo. At the same time, he's concerned about the cult's growing influence. Kato observes how the cult is getting daily coverage in newspapers, with some criticizing the government. In addition, he mentions how Prince Takahito has had the latest premonition. He urges Kyoka to stay on his toes for the time being. The narrative switches the perspective to Mayo Samori, who confronts another vision from her mother, Sumi, and Naoshi Yui's past memories. Suddenly, she notices Naoshi staring at her in her dreams. Mayo then wakes up in a cold sweat and wonders about the meaning behind her dream. While heading for the Imperial Castle, Mayo Samori tells Kyoka Kudo about her latest dream. She cannot fathom how someone can directly stare at her in her dreams. Mayo laments that there are many aspects to her powers she's yet to realize. Meanwhile, Kyoka drives the carriage to the castle. My Happy Marriage Season 2 Episode 7 showcases the luxurious castle, where Kyoka and Mayo will stay together for a while. According to the episode, Takahito has ordered the unit to protect him and Mayo from Naoshi Yui. As Mayo enters the castle, she sees Yuri and Hazuki, who will stay with her. Aside from them, Mayo meets Arata Yusaba, who is assigned as her bodyguard. Kyoka Kudo urges Mayo never to go outside the castle, while she can go anywhere inside the premises. Shortly after that, Mayo tells Arata about the latest dream. She wants Arata to teach her everything to know about the dream sight ability. Arata Yusaba feels Mayo has something restricting her from awakening the dream sight power's actual potential. Following that, Episode 7 switches the focus to Kyoka, who enters Mio's room. Seeing Mayo lost in thoughts, he asks her if something is bothering her. Mayo tells Kyoka about what Arata has said. Kyoka Kudo then urges Mayo to open up more. He feels Mayo tends to hide her emotions. Therefore, unraveling those emotions could help her tap into her actual potential. Kyoka then asks Mayo how she feels about him. However, before Mayo can process Kyoka's words, he leaves the scene embarrassed. After that, Episode 7 shows Kyoka Kudo meeting Yoshido for a quick meeting. Apparently, Karakoko Janucci is also attending the crucial meeting via call. They discuss how Karakoko's memories and her father's whereabouts don't quite match up. Kyoka Kudo feels there must be a second traitor working amongst them. My Happy Marriage Season 2 Episode 7 ends on a foreboding note, with Arata Yusaba lost in thoughts while guarding. Episode 8 of My Happy Marriage Season 2 begins with Kyoka speaking with Masashi. Kyoka and Masashi discuss the Imperial Council's activities and how they're monitoring Kyoka, Kyoka's unit, and Takahito. Meanwhile, Takahito, Takakura, and several councilmen hold a meeting. In a flashback, Takakura tells Takahito that he will track down an alleged traitor. Takahito says it'll be challenging and argues that opposing him wouldn't make the person a traitor. He tells Takakura that Yui will stop by soon. Takahito tells Takakura he's the only one that he can count on. In the present, Takakura examines the various ministers while they discuss Mikado's kidnapping incident. One of the ministers suggests they all unite under Takahito. Takahito tells everyone that he understands their concerns. However, Takahito argues they should focus on strengthening their defenses at the Imperial Palace. Mayo visits Hazuki in her room. Yuri and Takahito are present. They hold a fun ladies' soiree event inside. Hazuki uses her special ability on the mirror. Janucci appears in the mirror. Hazuki says Janucci will participate in the soiree from her location. The girls play board games, drink beverages, and discuss their romantic interests. Hazuki teases Janucci about her possible interest in Yoshito. Janucci says she views Yoshito as her senior and wants to stay away from love. Hazuki shares life advice with Mayo and Janucci regarding her divorce. She tells Mayo and Janucci that it's important for anyone to express their love and create an unbreakable bond with the person they're in love with. Janucci tells Mayo that she's rooting for her and Kyoka. She falls asleep and bids farewell to Hazuki and Mayo. Later, Mayo and Takahito chat outside while Hazuki rests at the table. Takahito rambles about his abilities and how those who can see the future, like himself, must combat loneliness. He warns Mayo about something that may happen soon. Mayo and Kyoka meet somewhere at sunset. She tells Kyoka not to catch a cold. Kyoka departs and Mayo walks off with Arata somewhere. Arata learns Mio's worried about Kyoka. He tells Mayo that one's emotions can dictate their power's strength levels. Arata is certain Mio's emotions will become her fuel. He tells Mayo that he will assist her with anything troubling her. Then, the Minister of Education, Hazeb, arrives with his secretary. Hazeb tells Arata that his secretary got lost, so he wanted to ask someone for directions. Arata suggests they turn around and go home. Hazeb tells Arata he knows about the Yusaba's special powers. He tries bribing Arata with money to use his powers. Erita gets physical with Hasebe and demands he leave. Takakura arrives with his men and he tells Hasebe to leave. Hasebe enters his vehicle and his secretary apologizes to Takakura and the others. Then, Hasebe's secretary whispers into Erita's ear, thanking him for his hard work. Hasebe and his secretary depart. Later, Kyoka and Mayo head to their room. Kyoka and Mayo realize there's one bed on the floor. Left with no choice, the two rest in the bed together. Kyoka discusses Mio's experiences at the Imperial Palace to calm her nerves. Then, Kyoka tells Mayo his job isn't too difficult. However, Kyoka regrets seeing his colleagues fall in battle. Mayo tells Kyoka that she doesn't regret becoming his fiancé. Kyoka and Mayo discuss love and the former tells Mayo that he wants to fall deeply in love with her. Kyoka tries to kiss Mayo but Mayo refuses. He tells Mayo that he'll be waiting. The episode ends with the two falling asleep. Episode 9 of My Happy Marriage Season 2 begins with Yoshito and the other anti-grotesquerie unit members fighting a grotesquerie. Yoshito defeats the grotesquerie and suggests they bring it to the quack doctor. Meanwhile, a group of unit members discuss a recent leak. One of the members suggests they remain vigilant, but another member argues they have nothing to fear. After this member enters a room, another member reveals he's in cahoots with the gifted communion. This member kills the same member who warned the member who entered the room. Later, Yoshito and Kyoka visit the quack doctor. Quack doctor performs a ritual on the grotesquerie that Yoshito defeated. He pulls out an orb from the grotesquerie's body. Quack doctor claims this orb's barrier is why supernatural abilities don't work on grotesqueries. Then, Kazushi arrives and plans to dispel the orb. Meanwhile, Mayo finds herself in front of the Saimori house. Viewers can assume she's using her dream sight powers. Next, Yui heads to Sumi's room while she's holding baby Mayo. Yui tells Sumi that he created an organization to change the world. He wants to bring Sumi with him. Sumi refuses. She tells Yui that marrying into the Saimoris prevented the Yusubas from entering a crisis. Sumi tells Yui that Mayo makes her happy. She tells Yui to find something to cherish and to live a new life with the Yusuba family. Mayo views their situation from afar. She realizes Sumi walked away from Yui and wanted him to be happy. Yui laughs and chats with Mayo. He learns that Mayo entered his dream with her dream sight powers. Yui tells Mayo that he cherishes Sumi and nothing else comes close to him. He tells Mayo he regrets not saving Sumi and argues he'd kill every Saimori to accomplish that. Yui tells Mayo he wants the world to be run by those with Yusuba family abilities. After Yui destroys everything, he wants to offer his world to Mayo. Mayo refuses. Yui tells Mayo that she is capable of controlling people's minds. He argues that Mayo will desire that power soon. Yui tells Mayo he will kill Kyoka. Mayo awakens and looks outside. She notices it's snowing and remembers Takahito's warning. Mayo roams the area and arrives near the entrance gate. Hazuki and Yuri meet up with Mayo. Mayo tells the girls that Kyoka is in danger. Mayo and the girls hear behind the gate. A man opens the gate, and Mayo and her friends learn he harmed the guards. The man uses his powers to harm Hazuki. Hazuki tells Yuri to seek help and begs Mayo to leave the area. She tells Mayo that she'll use her powers to stall for time. Mayo departs. The man defeats Hazuki and stops Mayo. He eats one of the spheres Kazushi is currently working on. The man transforms into a grotesquerie. Meanwhile, Kyoka, Yoshito, and the quack doctor observe Kazushi's activities. Kazushi destroys the sphere, and 4 grotesquerie claws appear. Quack Doctor infers that materializing a part of a grotesquerie allows people to be possessed by a demon. Kazushi confirms he can dispel everything now that he knows how this sphere works. Meanwhile, Yuri and a guard visit Hazuki's location. Hazuki sends an origami bird to Kyoka. She hopes Kyoka will protect Mayo. The grotesquerie grabs Mayo. Yui speaks with Mayo using his powers. He wants Mayo to cry for help. Yui hopes Kyoka will rush to Mio's aid. Mayo refuses and uses her powers to send the grotesquerie and herself into the dream site realm. Meanwhile, the soldier who entered the room earlier gets shot. Yui chats with the minister. The minister tells Yui to remain hidden. He argues that if word gets out about his allegiance with Yui, it'll ruin the minister's path to becoming the prime minister. The minister departs and one of Yui's men appears. He tells Yui that the entire military facility is under their control. The underling confirms that Mikado has been taken care of. Yui tells his underling that he wants to kill Mikado. Meanwhile, Mayo and the grotesquerie sink into the floor. In the real world, Kyoka saves Mayo from the grotesquerie. Kyoka defeats the grotesquerie with Kajushi's help. Then, someone fires 2 gunshots at Kyoka. Kyoka falls to the ground. Arata appears behind Kyoka and reveals he shot Kyoka with his pistol. He updates Mayo and Kyoka on Mikado's situation. Arata reveals that he and the others received orders to detain Kyoka. He argues he's doing this for the Yusuba family and Mayo. 2 guards tie up Kyoka's arms. Kyoka tells Mayo he loves her, and the 2 men drag Kyoka away. Mayo cries. The episode ends with a shot of Kyoka's shikigami on the ground. My Happy Marriage Season 2 Episode 10 begins with a mysterious boy emerging from a magic circle. The boy strangely resembles Kyoka Kudo's child version. Following the foreboding opening scene, the narrative shifts to the mansion, where Mayo Samori finally regains consciousness after the stressful event. Yuri, who has been watching over Mayo for a while, asks the girl how she's feeling. Suddenly, Mayo remembers about Kyoka Kudo's fate. She gets up from her bed and asks Yuri about her fiancé with concerned eyes. This moment, Hazuki enters the room. Seeing Mayo fine, she promptly hugs her. Mayo Samori apologizes to Hazuki since she thinks that she could have prevented the incident. However, Hazuki urges Mayo to stay calm. Even though Kyoka has been taken away by the gifted communion, Hazuki has full faith in her brother's safety. Meanwhile, Lord Takakura thinks Kyoka Kudo must be at the headquarters. However, according to My Happy Marriage Season 2 Episode 10, the gifted communion members have captured the headquarters and the garrisons. As a result, they have taken control of the chain of command by force. The special anti-grotesquerie unit attempted to follow Kudo, but the fierce battle with the gifted communion members left them scattered. Thankfully, the Navy, who was on another assignment, wasn't attached. Therefore, Prince Takahito promptly summoned them to chase out the intruders. Takakura tells Mayo that they are currently focusing on strengthening the palace's security. When Mayo asks him about Prince Takahito, Takakura says he's fine. However, since Kudo is Takahito's sworn friend, he's deeply distressed about the situation. Meanwhile, Yuri and Hazuki urge Mayo to rest. Elsewhere, in My Happy Marriage Season 2 Episode 10, Hojo commends Arata since the gifted communion wouldn't have been able to capture the anti-grotesquerie unit without his assistance. However, Arata Yuseba says that he has done everything to ensure Mayo gets to the top of the world. Hojo then apologizes to Arata for misjudging him at first. Meanwhile, at the palace, Mayo Samori doesn't want to put anyone in danger anymore. Rather, she aims to take the matter into her own hands. As such, she tries to sneak out of the palace to go and rescue Kyowa on her own. As she's about to leave the palace, the young boy from the opening scene stops her. He calls Mio's plan awful. My Happy Marriage Season 2 Episode 10 then switches the perspective to the young boy, who introduces himself as Kyoka Kudo's Shikigami. Apparently, his job is to protect Mayo. The Shikigami, whose name is Kyo, tells Mayo that the situation isn't as simple as she thinks. That's why he thinks it's wise for Mayo to go to the Yusuba's mansion once. With Lord Takakura's help, Mayo Samori reaches the Yusuba mansion. Elsewhere in My Happy Marriage Season 2 Episode 10, one of the gifted communion members asks Naoshi Yui what to do with Kyoka Kudo. Naoshi reveals that he intends to use Kyoka as a catalyst to awaken Mio's abilities. The narrative for My Happy Marriage Season 2 Episode 10 shifts to Mio Samori, who goes to her grandfather Yoshiro. She asks her grandfather if he can guide her to awaken her powers. However, Yoshiro says that he doesn't want his granddaughter to follow the same path as Naoshi or Arata. He thinks having strength alone won't be able to fix the situation. During their conversation, Mio asks Yoshiro what happened with the Yusubas. This moment, My Happy Marriage Season 2 Episode 10 reveals the haunting truth about Naoshi Yui's past. According to Yoshiro, the Yujuis were part of a remote branch of the Yusuba. In his childhood, Naoshi Yui lived in a farm village near the countryside. However, a certain incident compelled the main family, i.e. the Yusuba family, to take him under their custody. It is said that the Yusuba cannot use their powers on those without abilities. However, when a couple of burglars killed Naoshi's biological parents, the boy used his powers to kill them. It was becoming increasingly difficult to contain Naoshi's sadistic tendencies. Therefore, the elders decided to seal Naoshi's powers. However, Mio Samori's mother, Sumi, was able to bring a change to Naoshi's personality. Thus, the elders let Naoshi have his powers. Eventually, they thought Naoshi and Sumi would get engaged and lead the Yusuba into the future. However, through the Emperor's swift interference, the Tsurugi trading declined. That moment, the Samori family assured the Yusubas of financial assistance if they handed over Sumi as a prospective bride. Interestingly, Sumi accepted it to save his family. However, Naoshi Yui strongly opposed the decision. He fell into deep despair and eventually disappeared one day. My Happy Marriage Season 2 Episode 10 then returns to the present and focuses on Mio. She tells Yoshito about Naoshi's aim to awaken her powers. She wonders whether it's related to her mother. She also wants to know what it means to awaken her powers. This moment, Yoshito hands over a sacred book to Mio, which has passed through generations of Yusuba. The book is called The Tome of Dream Sight. Mio reads the book and discovers that one has to awaken the dream sight powers through one's own feelings and desires. In other words, external aid cannot awaken such a power. That night, Mio Samori dreams another memory concerning her mother and Naoshi Yui. Yet before that, Mio confronts her mother, who apologizes to her for letting her carry a heavy burden. She touches her head and a bright spark illuminates the screen. The dream sequence shifts to Sumi's memory, where she urges Naoshi to stop hurting people. My Happy Marriage Season 2 Episode 10 also reveals how badly Sumi Yusuba wanted to be a maiden of the dream sight to change the hard and fast rules concerning the Yusubas. Yet, she knew that it wouldn't have been possible since she was born with telepathy powers. The dream sequence shifts to another memory, showing Sumi's resolve to save her family, even though it meant the end of her relationship with Naoshi. Although Sumi was firmly convinced that it was the only way, Naoshi found it difficult to grapple with the truth. Shortly after that, the dream sequence switches to Naoshi Yui outside the Samori household. He internally breaks down to find out that Sumi has left the mortal world. However, he clings to hope when he discovers that Sumi has a daughter. After confronting those visions, Mio asks Sumi whether she has a chance to stop Naoshi. Sumi only smiles as a path opens behind her. Mio Samori follows the path, which eventually takes her to Kyoka Kudo under the cherry blossom tree. As they watch the cherry blossom flowers bloom, Mio regains her consciousness. She walks out of the Yusuba mansion and approaches the tree in real life. Mio's grandfather, Yoshito, asks her whether Sumi has shown her the way. Mio says that she has done that indeed. My Happy Marriage Season 2 Episode 10 ends with Mio Samori awakening her dream sight powers. My Happy Marriage Season 2 Episode 11 begins with Arata Yusuba checking on Kyoka Kudo in prison. The moment Kyoka notices Arata, he becomes incredibly furious. He tries to demonstrate his lightning abilities, but surprisingly, they don't work. Arata then tells Kyoka that there's a special barrier that seals supernatural abilities. Meanwhile, Kyoka wants to know why Arata has sided with Naoshi Yui and abandoned his duties to protect Mayo. Arata then reminds Kyoka that everything he does is for the Yusuba family and Mayo. After that, the narrative for My Happy Marriage Season 2 Episode 11 shifts the focus to Mayo Samori, who witnesses a series of events in her dream. She realizes that those visions will lead him to Kyoka Kudo. Banking on her visions, Mayo plans to head to the military grounds. Yet before that, she wants to meet Yoshido Goto first. Kyoka Kudo's Shiki, Kyo, thinks Goto might not have returned yet. In addition, he fears the gifted communion members could still be there. However, Mayo urges Kyo to trust her. As Mayo and Kyo approach the military grounds, they notice several brainwashed members outside the front gate. Thus, Mayo decides to enter through the back gate. She easily enters the grounds exactly how she envisioned in her dreams. After accessing the grounds through the back door, Mayo Samori meets Yoshito Goto. She's glad to see that Yoshito is doing fine. Likewise, Yoshito is thrilled to see Mayo. Meanwhile, Kyo observes the aftermath of the battle that has taken place at the training grounds. Yoshito reveals how they had to fight against several brainwashed army forces and grotesqueries. He then assures Mayo that Kyoka will be fine. Mayo tells Yoshito that she plans to head out with Kyo the next day to save Kyoka Kudo. That's why she hopes Yoshito and others will lend her help. Mayo says that she should be able to find Kyoka with her dream sight ability. Aside from saving Kyoka, she wants to make Naoshi Yui understand her mother's feelings, which he couldn't in the past. This way, Mayo thinks that she can stop Naoshi's madness. During the conversation, Kazushi steps outside, Kazushi assisting Mayo as her bodyguard in her rescue operation. Elsewhere, an official reprimands Naoshi since Prince Takahito is still in authority. Naoshi then reminds him that it's their fault for not knowing that the Navy was away. When the official gets involved in a heated with Naoshi, the latter's subordinate incinerates him with supernatural abilities. He asks Naoshi how he wants to handle the Navy. Naoshi Yui says that everything will be fixed once they have Mayo. Meanwhile, Mayo Samori goes to the Imperial Castle to meet Tadakio Kudo, who is staying there for the time being. She mentions how she found out about his location from her dreams. However, she doesn't know why Tadakio has come to the castle. Kyoka Kudo asked his father to do something prior to his arrest. He wanted Tadakio to take care of Mayo if something happened to him. During their conversation, Mayo Samori finally requests Tadakio to help her save her fiancé. Tadakio assures Mayo by saying that she can count on him. At the same time, he asks Mayo to rest for a while since she has traversed a long distance to arrive at the castle. Cases Mayo sharing a moment with Kyoka Kudo's mother, Fuyu. Fuyu reminds Mayo how a woman must always try to fulfill their duties for their husband. Sometimes, a marital relationship can stay without even love. However, she reminds Mayo that she's special because she gets to love and do duties for Kyoka at the same time. As the night approaches, Mayo gets apprehensive about the next day's endeavors. As such, Kyo decides to sing a lullaby to her. The Shikigami's melodious voice brings serenity to Mio's thoughts. As the dawn beacons, Mayo Samori finally heads out to rescue her fiancé with Kazushi and Kyo. They arrive at the military headquarters where Kyoka is located. Guided by her dream, Mayo leads everyone to the prison area. Since the entrance to the administrative building is locked, they use one of the windows to get in. As soon as they reach the prison's depths, several guards approach them, and showcases Mayo Samori demonstrating her dream sight powers to induce the guards into a terrifying dream. With them fast asleep, Mayo and others continue their search inside the prison cells. Following the path seen in her dreams, Mayo Samori realizes that her husband-to-be must be trapped up ahead. Meanwhile, Naoshi Yui and Arata Yusuba learn about Mayo and others' arrival, so they start making their move. Elsewhere, at prison headquarters, Kazushi observes a barrier. As he begins to dispel the barrier, a terrifying grotesquerie stops their way. The grotesquerie severely attacks Kyo and goes for Mayo. This moment, a fire spell incinerates the creature. Mayo Samori realizes that it's none other than Kyoka Kudo, her fiancé. My Happy Marriage Season 2 Episode 11 showcases a heartwarming reunion between Mayo and Kyoka, as the former finally confesses to her fiancé how much she loves him. She apologizes for not saying it earlier. Meanwhile, Kyoka Kudo's Shikigami bids farewell to Mayo since his work is done. Mayo becomes slightly disheartened as Kyo disappears from her vision. Inside the headquarters, Yoshido Goto and others fight against the brainwashed soldiers and the gifted communion members. Kazushi joins Yoshito and tells him that the rescue operation is successful. Meanwhile, Tadakio Kudo also cooperates with Yoshito and other soldiers from the Special Anti-Grotesquerie Unit. He unleashes a powerful ice-type attack against the enemies. Elsewhere, Mayo and Kyoka reach a hallway where Naoshi and Arata await their arrival. My Happy Marriage Season 2 Episode 11 ends with Naoshi Yui welcoming the Maiden of the Dream site.
The episode 12 begins with Naoshi Yui commending Mayo for awakening her dream site powers and venturing into his castle. Mayo says that she hasn't come to ensure Naoshi can make his ideal world. Rather, she wants to stop him. Naoshi Yui realizes that Mayo hasn't learned from the past. Thus, he thinks that Mayo must be punished. Kyoka Kudo stands in front of Mayo to shield her. Episode 12 then shows a confrontation between Naoshi Yui and Kyoka. The former demonstrates his ocular abilities to send a flock of crows at Kyoka, who wonders whether it's an illusion or reality. Suddenly, he observes Naoshi charging at him out of nowhere with a medium-sized dagger. Kyoka quickly blocks the blade and goes for a counterattack. However, Naoshi Yui keeps up with Kyoka, anticipating his every move. As Kyoka Kudo clashes his blade with Naoshi Yui, he observes that his enemy has another blade in his other hand. Episode 12 then shows Naoshi slashing Kyoka's chest with another dagger. Naoshi Yui's attack leaves Kyoka bleeding. However, he soon realizes that it's not an actual wound. Rather, it's another illusion created by Naoshi Yui. Kyoka Kudo cannot believe that his enemy can control others' minds as well. Naoshi Yui's attack in My Happy Marriage Season 2 Episode 12 leaves Kyoka's subconscious mind gasping for breath. Naoshi mentions how the illusion born from Kyoka's own distorted thoughts will be his end. Meanwhile, Mayo Saimori desperately wants to step in and stop the fight. However, Arata Yusaba stops Mayo by pointing a gun at her. Elsewhere, in My Happy Marriage Season 2 Episode 12, Yoshido Goto and others defeat the brainwashed soldiers and the gifted communion members. Just then, one of his comrades arrives at the location to inform him that their squad has found Mikado's whereabouts. Mikado is confined on the top of the abandoned former official residence. As such, he heads to the location, leaving Tadakio and others at the castle. Tadakio Kudo tells Yoshito that he must go and carry out his duty. Elsewhere, Kyoka Kudo fights back the psychological pain with sheer determination. He demonstrates his supernatural abilities to release thunder toward Naoshi Yui, who effortlessly evades the attack and charges at Kyoka with his dagger. As Kyoka blocks the dagger, he realizes that it's only an illusion. The real dagger is on Naoshi's other hand, which he uses to mildly slash Kyoka's feet. Naoshi's repeated illusions corner Kyoka. As such, he changes his plan. He lunges forward to strike Naoshi down. The gifted communion's leader shifts to the other side to plunge the knife down into Kyoka's back. However, this is exactly what Kyoka wanted. Anticipating the move, he uses his fire abilities to throw Naoshi off guard. Yet, it's not enough to defeat his enemy, as Naoshi uses a shield to block the flames. Episode 12 then shows Naoshi Yui's real strength, as he plunges Kyoka into a horrifying nightmare. Meanwhile, Mayo Saimori wants to go and help her fiancé. However, Arata doesn't allow her to go. At this moment in My Happy Marriage Season 2 Episode 12, Mayo Saimori confronts a vision of the future where Arata and Naoshi Yui die. On the other side, Kyoka Kudo is confined to a nightmarish loop where Mayo Saimori repeatedly dies at the hands of a terrifying grotesquerie. What's worse, he can only watch the horror unfold and cannot do anything to protect his fiancée. As Kyoka Kudo suffers from an unimaginable psychological pain, Mayo Saimori steps in. She demonstrates her powers as the Dream Sight Maiden to change the environment of Kyoka's hell into a heavenly abode. Interestingly, Arata Yusuba and Naoshi Yui are also in the dreamscape with Kyoka and Mayo. Episode 12 then focuses on Mayo Saimori, who confronts Naoshi Yui with a determined will. She wants Naoshi to change his ways and stop inflicting pain on others. Mayo reminds him about his past with her mother, including that she, Sumi, wouldn't have wanted to see Naoshi tread on such a path. Yet, Naoshi Yui remains determined to follow his own ideals. He thinks a world without Sumi is a world to be destroyed. At this moment, Mayo slaps Naoshi Yui to remind him more about the past he shared with Sumi. However, in response, Naoshi envelopes the dreamscape with darkness. Episode 12, Sumi Saimori's visage descends to the land. Her arrival ushers in light to dispel the darkness pervading the dreamland. Naoshi Yui is transfixed by Sumi's visage. Even though he's overjoyed to see her, Sumi's face displays no smile. Sumi doesn't show any emotion because Naoshi Yui has hurt her family. Yet, at the same time, he recognizes that he's also her family. That's why she wants the man to stop his evil deeds and join him. However, Naoshi Yui mentions how protecting Sumi's smile was everything he cherished in his life. Since Sumi is no longer alive, he wants to destroy the world, which now has no meaning to him. For a while, Sumi doesn't say anything. She breaks her silence by releasing Naoshi from his duty as her protective sword and asking him to join her. However, Naoshi has had enough. He picks up his dagger and plunges it into his chest to break free from the dreamscape. As the dream world collapses, Mayo finds herself trapped in a strange environment, with clocks surrounding her. Mayo then hears Sumi's voice telling her that the gears of a new era have begun to turn. She assures her that everything will be fine. Sumi also commends Mayo for her effort. After regaining consciousness, Mayo Saimori discovers Naoshi Yui in an injured state, trying to go after Kyoka. However, his illusions fail. Arata Yusuba points his gun at Naoshi. Arata fires the bullet at the same time as Naoshi throws his dagger at him. The bullet pierces through Naoshi's chest, while the dagger plunges into Arata's body. Horrified, Mayo goes to check on Arata. Meanwhile, Kyoka Kudo shouts for a medic. As for Naoshi, he slowly loses his consciousness. In his last moments, Naoshi Yui sees Sumi's visage, who extends her hand toward him. Just like their childhood days, Naoshi joins Sumi on a walk. Yet this time, it's the walk to the afterlife. After some time, the medic arrives and takes the injured Arata Yusuba away. On the other hand, Kyoka confirms Naoshi Yui's death. Meanwhile, Mayo Saimori, in a teary voice, questions the existence of the supernatural abilities, as she cannot understand how people can fight for power and hurt others. Even though she could change the future with her ability, she laments that she couldn't protect her mother's wish. Kyoka Kudo then hugs Mayo and tells her that she has done everything that she could. My Happy Marriage Season 2 Episode 12 ends with Kyoka and Mayo meeting Yoshito and others outside after the horrific trial.
We're diving deep into the heartfelt and emotional final episode of My Happy Marriage Season 2, Episode 13, titled The Shape of My Happiness. The episode begins with a calm atmosphere, a much-needed breather after the recent chaos. The supernatural threats have been dealt with, and peace seems to be returning. Mayo is seen peeling an orange for Arata while he's resting. Playfully, Arata teases her, saying, "Being hospitalized isn't so bad if you're going to peel oranges for me like this."
に来てみかんを剥いてくれるなら入院も悪くはないかもしれない。
Mayo then asks him seriously, "Did you plan from the beginning to have Naoshi Yui shot?" Arata Tsuruki finally opens up. He admits his mistakes honestly and apologizes sincerely to both Mayo and Kyoka. Mayo shares how the entire situation was traumatic for her. Arata no longer hides behind pride. Instead, he takes responsibility for the pain he caused. This moment serves as a symbolic closure to old wounds, especially between him and Mayo. Mayo then says, "If only I could have used my ability back then, I might have been able to fix things." That moment, Kyoka arrives. Arata, still teasing, says to him, "You came here to see me, didn't you?"
もしかして俺の見舞いに？
勘違いするな。
Kyoka responds firmly, "Don't misunderstand. I came here to pick up Mayo." As she walks over to Kyoka and the two prepare to leave. As they are about to depart, Arata jokingly remarks, "You two are going on a date, aren't you?" Mayo smiles and replies, "Yes."
デートですか？
The scene shifts to Kyoka's mother and sister discussing his upcoming wedding. They're talking about preparations, particularly about what dress Mayo should wear. It's a warm, light-hearted moment between them as they share their thoughts. Hazuki gently presents Mayo with a delicate white kimono. "This," she says with a tender smile, "is the white kimono father gave mother when she married into the Kuda family. It's well worn now because I wore it too. And Mayo, I want you to inherit it." Mayo stands frozen for a moment, overwhelmed. Her eyes begin to well up as her voice, trembling with emotion, narrates her thoughts. "The outfit my mother wore when she married into the Saimori family, it doesn't exist anymore. So the thought of inheriting something from someone, it never even occurred to me that such a moment could be possible." Unable to hold back her tears, Mio's emotions overflow. Kyoka's mother, observing her crying, says dryly, "Crying over a mere piece of clothing? How pathetic." Still, there's no harshness in her tone, and with surprising gentleness, she hands Mayo a handkerchief. "Mayo, thank you." Just then, Hazuki teases with a laugh, "Mother, when you received this same white kimono, father told me, you were so happy you cried buckets, you know." Kyoka's mother's face turns beet red. She snaps back with a flustered tone, "Be quiet."
嬉しくて大泣きしてたってお
Kyoka Kudu, a man who has spent most of his life on the battlefield, leading with strength and honor. But now he chooses something far more personal, love over duty. With a calm resolve, he submits his resignation papers.
書いてある通りです。
理由を聞かせてくれ。
おります。
A symbolic act that speaks volumes. He's ready to step away from conflict, to finally live a life not for the Empire but for himself and Mayo. But he doesn't leave his responsibilities hanging. In a quiet, respectful gesture, he appoints Gadu as his successor, ensuring the unit he led so fiercely will be in good hands. This decision, it's not just mature, it's deeply heartwarming. It shows that Kyoka isn't just protecting Mayo from the outside world. He's also building a life with her emotionally, mentally, completely. He's choosing peace. He's choosing her. After their quiet little date, Mayo and Kyoka return home. But they're not alone. Outside, a sleek black car is already waiting, parked like a silent messenger of fate. Standing beside it is Takakura, the ever-formal envoy from the Imperial Palace. He greets them with courtesy but wastes no time. The Imperial Gifted Communications Bureau is extending an invitation to you,
こ
Mayo,
こについてのご提案で参りました。
he says firmly. He speaks of the chaos that recently unfolded in the capital, the kind of disaster they can't afford to repeat. That's why, he explains, we need individuals with your abilities to serve under Prince Takahito.
あなたの力を高い人様のもとで使っていたい。
Then, turning to Kyoka, he adds, as Mio's husband, you're welcome to come to the Imperial Palace as well. A formal offer, and a test of their resolve. Before going, Takakura simply says, take your time. Think it over. And just like that, he's gone. Mayo and Kyoka are left sitting in silence. Now the choice is theirs. As night blankets the sky, peace settles in their quiet home. Mayo and Kyoka sit beside each other, the silence between them warm and comforting. After a pause, Kyoka gently says, "I've submitted my resignation. I'm no longer part of the military." Mayo looks at him in surprise. "But that's something you've devoted so much time to." Kyoka smiles softly and replies, "Because now, I want to spend my time with you. I want a peaceful life with you in it." Her heart swells with emotion. She reaches out and embraces him, whispering, "I support your decision truly." Then, after a moment, Kyoka pulls back slightly and asks her the question that's been on his mind. "What about you, Mayo? What do you want to do about the offer from the Imperial Palace this morning?" Mayo stays quiet for a heartbeat, then replies with gentle certainty, "I don't want to go either. I just want to stay here with you." They hold each other again, more tightly.
共に暮らそう。私たちの家。
Than before. Two souls finally free to love, to live, and to choose peace. The next morning arrives with quiet resolve. Mayo and Kyoka visit Prince Takahito at the Imperial Palace. As they bow respectfully, the prince greets them calmly, but then he looks at Kyoka and politely says, "Kyoka, would you mind waiting outside?" Kyoka nods and silently steps away, giving Mayo the space to speak her heart. Prince turns to Mayo, his expression gentle yet serious. "So, Mayo, what have you decided about the offer?" Taking a breath, Mayo raises her eyes and responds with quiet strength. "Thank you for the opportunity, but I've made my decision. I don't wish to join the Gifted Communications Bureau. I simply want to live peacefully with Kyoka." Prince takes a moment, then smiles with understanding. "I respect your decision, Mayo," he says with warmth in his voice. With that, the meeting ends and Mayo rejoins Kyoka outside. Kyoka brings Mayo to a quiet, scenic spot. There, he hands her a small gift. Kyoka gently reaches into his coat and takes out a small box. Inside is a delicate hairpin. "I thought this would suit you," he says calmly, offering it to Mayo. She accepts it with a warm smile and a quiet thank you.
刺してください。似合いますか？
Then Mayo pulls out something, a new braided cord. She steps closer, lifts his hair gently, and ties the cord onto Kyoka's hair. They exchange a look.
新しいく。
とっても素敵。
No big words, just mutual understanding. After the quiet exchange of gifts, they hug each other, holding on to the moment. Then Kyoka asks gently, "Mayo, will you marry me?" Mayo pauses, blushing slightly, then nods with a soft smile. "Yes."
してほしい。
I love you. And with that, the episode closes. Not with fireworks or grand declarations, but with a simple, honest beginning to their new life together. That's all for today's breakdown of My Happy Marriage Season 2, Episode 13. I hope you enjoyed the episode as much as I did. If you liked this video, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe, and share it with your friends who love the series. And hey, don't forget to leave your thoughts in the comments below. What did you think of the season finale? But before I wrap up, I'm going to drop some major spoilers for Season 3, so if you haven't read or watched it yet, this is your warning to click away now. Spoilers ahead. In Season 3, we dive deep into the aftermath of the events of this season. Mio's relationship with Kyoka faces some serious challenges, especially with the arrival of new characters that bring even more drama into their lives. There's also a huge revelation about Mio's past that'll shake everything she thought she knew. And as for Erita, things get way more complicated with his journey as he faces some really dark moments that could change the course of his future. It's an emotional roller coaster, so trust me, you're going to want to keep up. Spoilers end. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Until then, take care and stay tuned for more awesome content.